Thanks for the coffee, dude. Team Early as Fuck podcast. We have Open Talk, episode 2, 2019. We'll be going over the week 1 of the CrossFit Open, introducing the second guest, Steph Schlegel. I say that right? Schlegel. Dang it. I knew it. In my head, I was like, it's Schlegel or Schlegel. And then I forgot to ask you before we started. It's one of those ones I always screw up in my head. But we're going to catch up with her. She's a coach here in town at Fraternal CrossFit, and talk about a little competition. I think we had a good stream of conscience going right there with injuries for a little bit with coaches. And then we're going to dive into the 10 physical fitness components. So with that, Steph, who are you? What do you do? What do you like to compete in?
Sure. So I'm Steph. I'm from Point, coach at Fraternal CrossFit. I'm also a graphic designer. Been coaching since February. Been in CrossFit for almost 3 years. Nice. I've done the BPO, the CrossFit Open, done some team competition at one of the BPO events, besides just the Bullet Point Open. That's about it.
What about also shout out, thanks for making the graphic designs for the seasonal and fun tour. Those are awesome.
Yeah.
So what about the marathons you talked about?
Yep. Yeah. So I've been a runner for about 20 years. And I have a bunch of half marathons under my belt, Spartan races, obstacle course races. And then in 12 days and counting, I have my 7th marathon.
Oof.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be a runner? I always hear people say that. Is there a certain amount of races? Is there like a ratio of love-hate with running? What does that mean for you?
For me, yeah. This year's been good. It's been mainly love for for wanting to train, and it's hard because the one I do is in October, so that's all summer training. So takes up a lot of time. Can't do certain fun events during summer because you have your long runs every week. But I mean, to be a runner, like, if you run, you are a runner.
Okay.
And I hate the term jogging. Like, if you are doing that running motion, you are running. But yeah, I mean, running's everything. It's my decompress time, my de-stress time. I can either just completely zone out, or I'll brainstorm, whether it's stuff with coaching I'm thinking about, working out a design or an art project, anything like that. So it's pretty much my favorite, and CrossFit's become a close second. So
awesome. And what made you start CrossFit from being a runner?
Sure. So actually, because of running, I hadn't been able to hit some of the obstacles at Spartan races. And for running for the marathon, I hadn't lowered my time or improved my time after it was about 4 races. So I thought, doing it on my own isn't working. So let's try something different. And it took me probably about 6 months to get the nerve up to actually contact somebody at Fraternal and finally go in for one of the workouts. And I was hooked after one of them. And, after that was in March. And then I did my marathon in October, and I improved by almost an hour.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's something to it. It obviously improves overall athleticism and helps with everything, I think. So
awesome. Definitely. With I love that story, and it's super. That's like the thing. Like, well, and you came into it with an open mind. I've worked with other people who would kind of characterize them, and that's probably why you're a great coach, because you came into it with an open mind. There's some people that come in and they're like, oh, this won't do anything for my running. And I'm sure you've already worked with people like that. You're like, oh, well, let me hold your hand. We'll get you there.
Or it'll hurt you or something.
Yeah, or it's going to hurt you. Yeah, or it's going to make you too bulky. That's a big one, But so it's cool to hear that. For you, running for as long as you have, and the competition side of it, have you had any, knock on wood, had any big injuries? If you haven't, I don't want to jinx you.
Yeah, I haven't had any huge injuries. I had issues with runner's toe, where you get blood blisters under your toes, toenails. But I've had all mine permanently removed, so I'm good
Really?
to go. Yeah.
Wow, you went that far.
It happened
All right.
every summer for training, so I was like, let's just be done with it. But that was probably the worst, just because there's pressure and pain every time you run. So I struggled through 2 races or 2 seasons where it was not the best training. So then the race didn't go the best. So I was just done with it at that point. But other than that, I've been very lucky.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Anything? So you kind of went over why you run. Why do you compete? Why do you keep signing up for the marathons, the CrossFit competitions, and are you going to go full crazy and sign up for ultras?
Ultra is definitely a goal. The first goal is to qualify for Boston through just the full marathon. But yeah, I'll go full crazy. Especially, beating certain people or certain times. It's what I did the previous year or, my best time, beating that. And then with CrossFit competitions, it's the same thing. Camaraderie at our gym, between other gyms. We had Friday Night Lights. That's so fun. And you get to work out with people from other gyms or people that might not do, the same workout time that you do every day. So you get to work out with a variety of people. And camaraderie, cheering everybody on, just to do your best, whether it's, a workout you've done before or a brand new one.
Love it. It's badass. Alex, anything you want to chime in with? Slide it over. Oh, adjustment. There it is.
How long is an ultra marathon?
Anything over a full, so anything over 26 miles, 26.2.
That's a long run. Good for you. Yeah, I don't know. No, I always think that's we get athletes in our gym who have an absolute running background, and it's cool to see and to hear from you too, like to be open-minded, willingness to kind of try something new, or like strength training. It doesn't have to be CrossFit, just some kind of methodology, and we're seeing that it works well for someone in that background as far as like being able to run. They think it's going to take away from like their lungs or their capacity, or having big muscles are going to slow them down, and maybe sometimes it feels like that. But I can remember, I think it was like 6 months into CrossFit, I knew like what my mile time was. I was very like dialed in as far as that goes, and I would usually run within 5 or 10 seconds of that. But it was, I think, like 6 months into CrossFit, I ended up like PRing it by like 45 seconds or something like that. And there was no form of, like I've gone through running. I was a cross country runner like in middle school into high school. And so like I've gone on stints of running or having consistency. And then with CrossFit, there wasn't, there wasn't a ton of consistency at all with it. And so I had like no expectation. And I've heard a lot of people say the same thing. And then they'll just do something stupid like, oh yeah, I just ran a 5:18 when my old was like a 5:45 or something like that. So very cool.
Bam. I like it. Let's check in with you. How's the injury going along the back?
I'm doing better. We were talking about the open workouts. I'm good. I can touch my toes, and I was able to join in with my community. Might not have been the smartest thing in the world, but I made a way of making it happen. I made a decision before the workout that if we were going to do any pulling or anything from the floor, which we saw a lot of that in that workout with ground overhead,
a little bit,
80 of them. I just went singles the whole time, and I just challenged myself to, okay, you can't really control the bar on the way down. Just do singles and see if you can finish this workout doing it that way. And I was able to do that. So
it's impressive.
Yeah, it was just stay on the bar, grip and rip, and then back and forth over the bar with the bar facing burpees. But it was fun. I had talked to some people at my gym, so like I didn't, and I'm still back and forth about this. Like I didn't sign up for the open. This is the first year that I haven't done that, in the last like 7 years. So I didn't really know what to think of that at first, and I had talked to a couple people, including like another coach and a good friend of mine, who were putting in my ear like, hey, like you should still sign up for this thing. and try to lead by example for your gym, which is something that like I've really tried to do as best as I could. I feel like that's what I'm about. So trying to find like that balance between like being a coach and a competitor was always kind of hard for me. I've always felt like if I can't deliver like my best performance or effort, like I want to be able to hold on to that and be smart and let it happen when it can. So yeah, I don't know where my train of thought was on that, but being kind of caught up in the moment, I'm just like, okay, like I guess it doesn't matter how we do this, just find a way to do it in a safe way so that, you know, your athletes, your clients can see you doing it and be okay with that regardless of what the results are. So I think I'm going to move forward with that. Obviously be smart. Like if there's heavy squat cleans in week 2, like probably shouldn't do that, but still find a way to do like a scaled variation of it or something, just so I can be a part of the class. But just kind of have to watch it and be smart, and hopefully our other athletes can see that too and relate to it. So
definitely, that's a huge part of coaching, and I know Steph was touching on it, you know, before we started, is you might be injured as a coach and everyone sees you still coaching. They might not work out with you, so they don't see that part of it. And I think there's a big fear from a lot of coaches, kind of what you were talking about, even with competing, is if we can't deliver our very best, and if we are considered quote unquote the RX athlete as a coach, then it's hard to scale it, because so many of us put this like weird pressure on ourselves to, well, I'm the coach, you know, I have to lead with pushing maybe the weights or the RXness, if that's a term I can use. So we forget that we're still all people. Injuries happen. There's the mental part of injuries that we kind of talked about in the first episode, and then it's super important for people to see you scale things. Like, oh, they're scaling. The coach is scaling. I should be scaling. Like, if they're scaling, I should definitely be scaling. That kind of thing. So no, it's cool to hear that you're doing that, and taking that's, you know, that's gonna be harder than doing the workouts RX. Like is being humble enough and a big enough leader to say, like, no, here, this is how we're gonna scale these things. I have this back injury going on. Some of you might have back injuries or shoulder injuries, and this is how we should scale it appropriately to meet where we're at. Because, you know, when we go into the 10 physical components, that's really why we're all here. That's why we're training. That's why we're working out. That's why we're in a group. It's to meet these needs we need as tribal, as community-oriented people. We need people around us. It makes us feel good, especially when they're all awesome people who are kind of striving for a similar goal. And then the physical aspect of our brain-body connection, it's super cool to see. Yeah. So you got anything to add? No? All right. Steph, you want to chime in there with anything?
I just think, like...
Oh, hold the mic in.
Showing, you know, if you are injured, even if you are a coach, scaling, you know, showing the athletes that, you know, if you're injured, you shouldn't be, you know, pushing it and RXing it just to RX it.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess up the injury worse or hurt yourself in a different way for overcompensating. So I think just showing that it is okay, even if it is hard to go in and scale it when you're used to RXing it. I think just to show it's okay to do that.
Definitely.
So that's a good point that she makes, and like I was thinking of that too in this whole process. Like it might be really clear to a coach to say, like, hey, you know, I am injured right now, but I really do need to set the bar and lead by example, like you were talking about. That's something that, like, I've never had a problem with, and the people that, like, I've been around, like, I feel like we've got a good coaching base at our gym and from other gyms that I've been to. Like, they do that very much, and they want their athletes to see that. But, like, in the same token, like Steph was saying, it's, you know, still trying to be smart about that and understanding like where you are with, say, setback, injury, whatever it is, and knowing what you're up against, and still making a decision that is good for you, because you don't want to do just the opposite either, where you take on a workout and even if you do modify it or you're doing something that might be a little questionable for you, to not dig yourself a deeper hole. And that's something that I think that's what I was thinking about more than anything, whether it was this particular workout or any workout that I would face, is, well, you know, you could do these things and you could still modify and there could be some risk to it, but do you want to be the person to also make that decision to do a movement or something that is questionable and have it create, you know, a worse injury or something, you know, that you don't want your athletes to see, or like reference like, oh, I saw my coach do that, you know, this one time when he was in a state that he probably shouldn't have done that. Not to say that people would do it, but I think that was more so in the back of my mind. And when I watch other people too, it's like, you know, there are times where like you just need to show your athletes, because we have so many people, whether it's in CrossFit or the functional fitness space group setting, where people are like, you know, this doesn't feel right now, but this workout is really important to me and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this workout done. Like we see that a lot. We've got a lot of tough, bullheaded people that will do anything for points or for the workout. So I think in my headspace, and that more than anything, when I was thinking about signing up or anything like that, it's like you don't want to show people, you know, the wrong path where you make a bad decision for yourself. You do want your athletes to see you, to understand like, hey, like sometimes like you just, this is not what you need to do right now. You might have to completely rest or not do this movement or find like another way around it.
I love that. Steph, for you, thank you, Alex. That was awesome. That was a good way to kind of move into this next thing. Is Steph had talked about it before, is let me pull that mic a little closer. I'm going to keep reminding everyone. But because you've got the marathon coming up, you know, and obviously quite a few people doing the open at Fraternal?
Yeah, I think quite a few are signed up for it and doing it.
And I know
we do it every Friday then as the workout for the day. So
exactly. So for you, you know, you touched on it. You were coaching that day. You're like, oh, I'm gonna do it later on in the day, and you haven't signed up for the open, but you've got a marathon coming up. Kind of explain, talk about your headspace with all of that.
Sure. So it's hard for me, and I've been talking with some of my fellow running friends to kind of bring me back down, because I don't like taking rest days and I don't like missing workouts, especially with the open. And knowing that it was going to be in October this year, and knowing that was the tail end of my marathon training and right around my race, I was debating, you know, well, if I do all the workouts, I could just do them, you know, Fridays when we do it. And I coached all morning on Friday last week, and just seeing people do that workout. And I had been not feeling the best last week, so I had already taken 2 days off from the gym, but still ran. And just seeing everybody go through that workout, and kept saying, okay, I'll do it at, you know, the afternoon workout. And then by the time that, you know, rolled around 4 o'clock, it's like, I think I'm just going to take a rest day, and I'll hit my last long run of the weekend. You know, I was running 18 miles last weekend, so it's like you got to just pick and choose kind of the last couple weeks. Am I going to hit my long run? Am I going to hit my runs every day and the gym? Or, you know, that becomes a bit tiring at the tail end of it. So I chose last week not to do the workout, and I hit my 18 miles this week. Hopefully it'll be a little bit different depending on what 20.2 is, but my longest run is not as far this week, so and next week's going to be a lot of shorter distances, so it's more doable, manageable to do both. Yeah. So
nice. Solid. Yeah, you know, you talked about the open being in October this year, which for me too is like, damn it, I don't want the open in October. I liked the open when it was, because traditionally I didn't have a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
Fall for me is hunting season, and so going back to 2011, doing the Open, and then up until 2018, I want to say I'm probably 50-50, or maybe just over finishing the Open to not finishing the Open, and it's usually because I jack myself up doing something stupid, like training. So it'll be, Alex is laughing. He's been there for a few of them.
Just thinking of you doing like mixed grip pull-ups.
So I get, I'll admit this, I'll be open right now, is I'll get in, because I love training. Like, I think everyone in here, we're all addicted to it. Alex and I were talking about addictive personalities before, and it's obviously the drug of choice for the three of us. And I love training. I love it more than competing. I still try to get a competition in every year, but I just love the feeling of training, working out with people, just that whole system. And I'll go through periods where, with Alex or with Elvis or whoever is around, we'll train for hours a day. And previously I had a bit more time kind of prioritized for that. So it wasn't uncommon for 5 to 6 days a week training for multiple hours a day and kind of surviving that, eating more, trying to sleep more, that being the thing. And then now I'm in a place where, I'm doing the podcast, doing more content, much more busy in the gym. So with work and doing the whole dog training thing, kind of taking that on. And then my training is kind of taking not a backseat, but it's become less of a primary priority. And I do it because I enjoy it. I do it for stress relief. And then come competition season, I kind of forget all about all that. And I'm like, I can do what I did before. And so what Alex is talking about with the pull-ups is, would that have been 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago. I was doing some kind of ring progression before class just because I hadn't done it in a while. And I was like, wow, I haven't really been on the rings. I've been doing a lot of strict work. And I put gymnastics grips on that I don't really ever use. And I remember it being bunched weird in my palm, but I was like, it's not that many muscle ups in this workout. I'll be fine. But I also have a history of severely tearing my hands on ring muscle ups, like bad. But go into the open workout, get to the ring muscle ups, they're going fine. And then on the second to last rep, as I'm coming back down, kind of Alex talking about, controlling the barbell on the way down. It's the same thing with a kipping gymnastics movement. I felt the grip roll up, and when I went into my muscle up, or the bottom of it, I felt the bottom of my shoulder, like a sharp pain, like someone stabbed me in the shoulder. I'm like, well, that's not good. And then I finish the rep, do the jump rope, and I just feel my shoulder tightening up. I'm like, that's not good. Go to the dumbbell snatch, get through that, have to do it super careful on the left side because going overhead hurts. And then I get to the bar muscle ups and I lift my arm up and I can't get my left arm above my shoulder. I'm like, oh, that's really not good. So I tore my teres, major, minor, that it was bad. In my head, I was like, it's not going to be that bad. Minor strain. I get home, I can't get my shirt off properly. And I look and there's a divot and it's already bruising just a few hours later. So I'm like, okay.
It's pretty bad.
I did. It was bad. So, luckily, sports medicine kicks in, orthopedics. Rehab starts, range of motion with a PVC pipe, towel slides within wherever I'm at, prioritizing range of motion. I've since healed up. I'm good to go. No surgery, nothing like that. Strength is back. But it's similar stories like that I do to myself, where it's just stupid little things compounded with me having these expectations of where I should be at because of what I've done and not remembering hey, you've got different priorities now. It's okay for that to happen and to make these kind of these adjustments. And at the time, me being, they didn't have scalable options either for the open. So it would be I would do the double unders and then the workout would be over because I couldn't do anything after that. But since then, having this, this realization in the last couple of years of what we've all been talking about is being okay to scale or it's just being okay to not sign up. You know, like I still want to do the workouts when I can. This last Friday I wasn't able to. I was just too many coaching workouts, personal training clients. I did like all of the warm-ups with people, did burpees and that kind of thing, but just wasn't in the cards. But I still want to be able to do the workouts. But I just knew in hunting season, like you made the realization, it's just better not to sign up for it right now. It's not the main priority. We love doing it. We love the competition part of it. We love proving ourselves. But at the end of the day, really just being like, no, I have these bigger goals, and that's okay, even as a coach, to make that decision. So, yeah, I love it. Does anyone want to add anything before we move on to we can go over the workout real quick from the two of you, and then we'll jump into physical components if that sounds good. All right. Steph, you want to go over the workout? I'll bring it up on the screen too.
So for 20.1?
Yep.
So it's 10 rounds, 8 ground to overhead, 10 bar facing burpees over barbell, 15-minute cap.
Ooh. And did most of the people you coach finish it?
I believe the workouts I coached, only one person finished.
That's about what I would expect. It's a tough workout.
And they had scaled it, and then I think I looked at the end of the day, the only other workout that I didn't coach, one person RX didn't finish it. She had like 20 seconds to spare.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. So it looked, and throughout the day I'd see people, they'd start with the snatch, and then they would drop down after a couple sets and do clean and jerk, and then they would go to the split jerk, and then it became, when I talked to them after, it was, I realized I'm not going to finish, so I'm just going to work on, my clean and jerk or my split jerk. It's like, hey, that's totally fine.
I love that.
Like, just keep moving. I like it.
Alex, what about yourself?
So Friday is much like Steph and Fraternal Friday is our day for the Open. We like to have fun with that. So all of our classes are doing that workout, and Friday is like my main day of coaching too. So I got to be a part of a lot of those classes and see it. And as far as people finishing the workout, like there wasn't, a lot of people weren't doing it. But like this time of year, especially for the people that are signed up for it, usually during our regularly scheduled classes, like we like to be smart, safe, like try to think about the workout and like it's stimulus, so we don't worry too much about what kind of loading our athletes need to be moving and things like that. But during open season, when we see something like a ground overhead that at a loading that might be tough or intimidating for some people, it's like the one time of the year where we might say, maybe you should try to do the heavier weight just to see what they can kind of do. So it was cool for people who don't have a lot of exposure to like the clean and jerk and the snatch to challenge themselves a little bit and either be humbled or whatever. They might feel good about their efforts. So I had fun with that part. I think a lot of people initially, it's cool. I like that Dave Castro had the ground to overhead option. Most people, when they were looking at it, they're just kind of thinking like, well, snatches is that's the faster option. It's probably going to get you a faster time. And a lot of people were going to me like, like we should be snatching, right? Like, because it's faster or whatever. It's like, well, not if you do your first round unbroken and you feel good about it, and then everything after that is like singles or whatever it might be. Like there isn't that much of a difference. So it was cool to see that game kind of played around. But we had some really good performances that were fun to watch. I had one guy in my last class of the day, and it was Friday night 5:30. It was really small, but in that kind of workout we kind of saw 10 rounds, like it's high volume, it's 100 bar facing burpees, 80 ground overhead. Like, it's a lot, but I still think even that caught people off guard. Most people that I had talked to had said that, like, after round 5, like that was probably enough, and that's when the workout
that's the warm-up.
That's when it changed a lot for people. And if you know anything about open workouts, they're all kind of diabolical like that. Like, it's just like, can you keep repeating the same pace over time? I mean, I don't know why people haven't learned over the last like 10 years to like it doesn't pay to have like this, really, in most of them, like this racer start where you come out like hot and then just you see a lot of people keel off or fall off or try to hold these big unbroken sets, and then when everyone does some kind of redo or something like that, you'll see them with a completely different conservative strategy that abandons everything that they did in the first one, and then they'll improve by a round or a minute or whatever. So we see that a lot, but what I was getting at was like the last 5 rounds of that workout were extremely tough, and they hit people in the face, and it was tough to keep that cadence. And the people that did that part, like the second 5 rounds, those athletes that were more consistent in the back half of that workout usually came out a little better. And I had one guy, I remember this in the middle of the workout. This is a shout out to AJ in our 5:30 class, but it was a small class. He had a judge, and it was 5 rounds into the workout, and he was not on pace to finish within the 15-minute cap. He was just behind. And I think his judge said something, or AJ caught the clock, and he just immediately got pissed off. And I don't think I saw anyone in that day pick up their cadence, but he got faster with every round from 5 to 10. Ugh. And just got, like, if you've ever had in a workout where you felt like you're, I don't know the word for it, like you're hitting your stride, or you feel really good and there's no amount of speed that will like deter you or make you feel like uncomfortable, like you just kind of thrive. I saw that. I watched him. It was cool. He was like having a blast, moving with speed, but there was no no limit, no ceiling to him. So he finished with like 30 seconds left and overcame like a 45-second like window. Yeah. I mean, if you would have watched anything going on, you'd be like, yeah, this guy's not finishing the workout. And he just finished it, and it was cool. And this is a guy who, I forget how old AJ is, but he's like, you know, he's a father. He's got 2 kids. He's like a SPASH alum who has an athletic background, but you know, he's hovering around 40 now, and he's finally found like another competitive avenue, a competitive niche. The open workout did that for him. This is his first CrossFit Games Open. I think he's like, I want to say like 6 months into CrossFit. And I think with, you know, this is like a prime example of what like the CrossFit Games Open or any, you know, online formatted competition can do for someone. It gave him a cool outlet. He was pumped after that, and I was pumped for him. It was cool to watch. So I think that's one like outstanding reason why like we enjoy the Open. We support it for athletes to sign up. Like, yes, the October thing like threw us for a little bit of a curveball, and it's creating these scenarios where people can't, it's not ideal for them to sign up. I mean, there's 3 of us right here, you know, we're talking about the Open. We fully support it. We've been a part of it. But like none of us are signed up right now, and it's not that to say that that's not in our interests or that like we don't support it. We 100% do. It's just, you know, sometimes you can't, with certain circumstances, you want to make the right call for yourself. And then if you're a coach, you're there too. It's not about you, you know, you support your clients, your team, however you want to do it.
Exactly. Boom. Love it. All right. Let's tackle 10 physical fitness components. So we've got cardiovascular respiratory endurance. I feel it's fitting for Steph to start us off as the resident runner. I've trained for a marathon, the Madison one. This was a long time ago, and they canceled it the day before because of the heat. I'm like, it's a marathon. Of course it's gonna suck. and then what really pissed me off about the whole thing is they're like, if you come, you can run the half and we'll give you the medal for the full. And that's when I realized I hated them and I was not going. and I think the longest run I have done since is maybe 6 miles. Okay. Like, I don't know. I enjoy trail running. I love getting my dog out for a run in the spring when there's really nothing else to do. Running on blacktop, I despise. Ever since the marathon training, like that's the only way to get where I live. That was the only way to get that amount of miles in without doing like the same 3-mile loop over and over again. I can't run on a treadmill. It's torture. I don't think I trained for that marathon and I didn't do any treadmill running, 0. And it was in like February, March, April I was training. So it was just the worst weather imaginable, but every time I'm like better than a treadmill. So yeah, you are definitely the resident running expert because I don't think Alex is trained for a marathon. No. All right. 5K is my max. There you go. So with that, Steph, cardiovascular respiratory endurance, I guess, what does it mean for you? Why is it important?
Well, you have to be able to sustain that, and you have to be aware of your breathing and everything when you're running that far, and you have to take that into account in your training to be able to control that, or at least be aware of everything that's going on. And I actually have asthma as well, so it's especially important.
That's awesome that you took on running.
Right, running with a plastic bag over her head.
I think that's part of why I like the summer training, even with all that goes on in summer that you may have to miss or change with scheduling, just because winter, it's suffocating when it's cold for people with asthma. So it's terrible. But like I said, I didn't know what wasn't improving when I was trying to improve my marathon and half marathon times. So I had wanted to try CrossFit, got into it, and it just improved everything. And it was a lot more like focus on your breathing. Like, what's the first thing people do a lot of times when you're coaching? They will hold their breath during certain movements.
All the time. And I found I was doing that, so it made me more aware of it all the time, not just at the gym, but in my running. So really just focused on that and, getting that breathing pattern down and building that respiratory endurance. I like it. Bam. Alex, anything to add? Otherwise, we'll kind of just take turns with each one.
Sure. No, yeah, that's good. I know I have a coach for myself as an athlete, and like he builds, whether it's me or anyone that he works with, and I see the value in it now to lay the foundation of an athlete. He usually starts with like respiratory endurance as being like the foundation to build on. So being able to sustain for long periods of time for any kind of athlete, like for someone just getting into health or like the athlete too, I guess in a way, as far as building like the 10 general physical skills or energy systems, whatever you want to talk about, like I think that he would, and what we're seeing a lot, like that is one of the things that lays the foundation for an athlete, and being able to do that first, and then being able to do things like control external loads like strength training, and then adding in like multiple movements into, say, a workout or something like that. So yeah, I don't think that was something that I took to heart like when I first started coaching. Like, you have to earn and be able to move for 5, 10, 15 minutes, whether it's like running or rowing. I mean, endurance can be applied to anything, but yeah, I think it's great.
Definitely. I like it. Yeah, there's nothing much to add. I agree. The more endurance capacity you have, especially with breathing, with muscle control, with any skill, allows you to train more, add volume, train faster, and without it, your foundation is limited. So I like it. Alex, do you want to start us off for stamina? So the ability of body systems to process, deliver, store, and utilize energy. So I always think of like a pump with this one. is like how much of that can you handle, like that lactic acid
like
buildup?
like being able to tolerate. And I guess like to me, and before I had, if I were to not look at the definition of stamina, like that would be the next closest thing to endurance in my eyes. Like,
Yep.
would you say so? Right.
Yep.
But I guess I would say so more like muscularly. So maybe that would apply to different movements, maybe in strength training. But like, you know, that whether it's like an athlete or someone that you're competing with, like someone who does have the ability to cycle and move like a barbell, say, like repeatedly over and over through time. It doesn't have to be like at max loads or anything like that. But yeah, to have muscular stamina to be able to, and I think that might fall more along the lines of being able to repeat a movement pattern over time and time. I think people who, if you're someone that hasn't taken the time, or you're newer to something like that and you don't have like that kind of stamina, that ability to repeat, you start to see movement mechanics, technique, like motor recruitment patterns. You can see someone who may know how to execute the movement proficiently, like in a controlled setting where maybe you have fixed rest periods, or you have one movement like a back squat or an air squat to focus on. Usually an athlete can execute that well, but then adding reps and accumulation with loading, being able to sustain and keep your stamina over time. Like, I think that anyone can kind of think of an athlete that they've been against, or someone that does a great job of that and can keep that like movement integrity throughout. Like, it's a cool thing to see. It's something worth striving for, and I think us as coaches, like that's where we see the value in having stamina over time. And then just like trying to find a way to slowly, whether it's like adding progression over time, like more reps or shorter rest periods for an athlete. I think that's a way like we kind of gauge and use it to try to improve something like that, to see like, okay, like are they moving better? Are they keeping like the mechanics that we set out for them in a squat or a press or a pull? I that's how I look at it, as far as like what I would want to take away from it. Yeah.
I like it. I was just, when you were talking about over time, the latest runner that beat the marathon mile time, that to me is the definition of stamina. When you can keep that up for that long. Steph, anything to add?
I agree. I'm glad you brought that up with Eliud Kipchoge, who
there you go. I wasn't even going to attempt it.
He broke 2 hours in the marathon. So he had a average pace of 4:34 per mile
for 26
miles. So, and I think if you
right?
Yeah. And then I don't know how to say her name, but the lady this was on Saturday, and then the woman who won the Chicago Marathon, she did the equivalent for females.
Yep.
There's a 16-year-old record for 2 hours and 15 minutes and some change for the women's marathon, and she broke it by over a minute. She had 2:14:04. So I can't remember the average pace for that, but I mean just shy of the 4:34.
I think anything under like 6 or 7 minutes repeated for 26 miles is insane.
Well, to think to do 4:34 for 1 mile.
I like almost don't believe that, but I know I have to believe it.
Yeah, she 2 hours and 14 minutes.
And I think if you look up just some of the interviews and just some of the comments from Kipchoge, like mental stamina.
Yeah.
Along with physical.
Definitely.
Like, he's very much like, there are no limits.
Yeah.
Like, you put the limit on yourself. So he knew he could do it, and this was, I don't even know what attempt this was, but second for sure with the pacers and all that, where it wasn't a set race. And he came close the last time. I think it was within 30 seconds of breaking 2 hours. So
that's brutal, because you think, like, you do that and you're like 30 seconds away. I know I could beat that, but to get there, you've got to put that 2 hours back in. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no easy do-over in that situation. Oh man, it's brutal. I like it. The mental part of stamina. I like that a lot. We're after 9. Dang it. We'll breeze through these real quick. We'll just bounce back and forth. Steph, you've got strength.
Strength. So, I mean, strength is
Pull that closer.
so many different things, building strength through load, through weight. And I think these all tie with mental attributes as well, that mental strength, because your body can go further than your mind. Your mind's going to stop you before your body, whether you're trying to do, break a PR with weights or beat your time in an open workout, anything like that. So I think it's just, you got to build it, mental and physical.
Mental and physical. I want to. Oh, don't you keep that mic. Don't you dare push that to Alex. Because it's big in the running world. We touched on it earlier. People are afraid to get bulky, or that's like there's some women and some men that's what they talk about in the gym. They'll be like, I don't want to get too bulky, or a guy will be like, I don't want to get as big as you, and it's like, don't worry, it's not going to happen by accident. For yourself as a female athlete, female coach, runner, have you ever had that mindset? Have you, when you encounter it, kind of what does that conversation look like?
Sure. I haven't really encountered it yet as a coach. Okay. I know you've been coaching a lot longer, so you guys probably have experience with that. Personally, I had always wanted to be, like the thin runner. And that's basically just muscle and bone. Now, I personally think that does not look healthy. And, I mean, they have to be lighter to get the times that they're getting. But once I started CrossFit, it was more about, I want to feel strong. I want to feel healthy. And if I'm hitting the times I want in my races and happy with how I'm performing at the gym, like, I don't care how I look. And I'm so much happier and comfortable in my skin now than I have ever been. So
that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Alex, this is a perfect one for you. Flexibility. The ability to flex.
I hate that you gave me this one. I hate it. It's something that is very valuable for someone who we kind of say athlete, or someone in it for health and function, that for either type or really any goal, it's important to be able to lengthen your muscles and hit positions and do things like that. This should be your question, because I'm still referring to you as the mobility guy. But I guess in the coaching space and in the gym space, and this is it's not really like nutrition. When you talk about nutrition, it can go a lot of different ways, and people have a lot of different opinions. But as far as flexibility, there's different opinions on what is too much flexibility, what is too much tightness, things like that. But we just encourage and we work towards flexibility that allows you to have range of motion to complete daily function, tasks, and then weight training. I think the CrossFit space or functional space put an emphasis on, you should be able to squat this low, you should be able to bring your hips, your shoulders, your body parts through a specific range of motion. And I think that's I think that's valuable, but I've always thought you should be able to take your body through a range of motion that's good for you right now and get strong there first, and then we can add more range of motion and distance over time. So I don't get too wrapped up in how low someone squats anymore, unless we're talking competition, stuff like that. Yes, we're on the ball with that, but if you want to, I guess it depends on what you want to excel in. If you want to be a weightlifter, an Olympic weightlifter, and you want to be able to maximize your potential, being able to hit positions, to have a good overhead position, to have free range of your hips and your ankles and things like that, it's very valuable, and there's a lot of different ways to go about it. If you're trying to be a power lifter, and if you've seen those guys like bench pressing and just pulling from the floor, and the suits that they wear, like it's kind of like the opposite for them. It's how much can we restrict our muscles and create tension and things like that. So flexibility is like, I don't think it's the same. It's definitely not the same for everyone. I think that like depends on your goals. So it's not like a one size all approach that I take for the person. We'll kind of see what they want. We'll see what they're bad at, where they're limited. And then we touch up on their flexibility. So I don't need to make everyone like do a pigeon stretch for 10 minutes.
I love it. No, man, you crushed it. Good work. All right. Moving right along. Steph, we've got power.
Power. I think that one goes with strength. It's one that you have to build. You can be powerful in being able to have the stamina and endurance, that goes together, or powerful in strength where you can lift very heavy, or both, when you have both. We don't really have anything where it's, people big into lifting. We have some of the guys and the coaches that are into like Olympic weightlifting, and we had Oli at the gym. So working on power through load that way.
It's probably Derek Bell, I'm guessing, right?
Yes.
He loves snatching. He loves taking that barbell overhead.
He is actually the only person that finished 20.1, by the way.
I believe it. What a boss.
But yeah, I don't know.
I want to, so coming from power, no, I think you crushed it. As a runner and someone that, started CrossFit, people that love running, they think more running is how I get faster. But at no point are you overloading, your posture, your position. You're not challenging that. So it's almost impossible to, get stronger, produce more force when you're just running. Mm-hmm. So for you, now that you're coaching CrossFit, you've done CrossFit for 3 years, you love running, where do you see the benefit in your running from increased strength and power?
It's definitely helped me in improving my times and getting faster, my breathing, like just overall. Mm-hmm. It's made my legs stronger. Mm-hmm. I went from doing, runs and hitting a couple air squats and push-ups on my own to doing, daily workouts of the day and, deadlifting and squats and all kinds of different movements that I'm building through load, and I'm getting, more powerful and more strength where I can lift heavier. And that's just improving my running in so many ways too. And it helps improve form, because you're thinking about form when you're doing, weightlifting movements, barbell movements. So then you think about it more when you're running too, versus just kind of, like I said, you can kind of just zone out when you're running. And you're not really thinking about much besides, if you're tired or thinking about all the food you're going to eat when you're done. And so you think about your form more when you're running, along with when you're doing movements at the gym, and it improves everything.
I like it. All right, Alex. Speed. Speed is what we need. Speed kills.
The need for speed. Yeah. It's cool. I like how each one kind of plays into the next, because when I think of speed, I also think of power and like the ability to like apply force into something like that. Most of the people that like I work with in like the general population or in the class environment, if you say we work on speed, or I'm sure agility's probably on the list too. Don't give me that one. It's speed usually isn't for someone who's going into fitness for health. It's not like at the top of their list. In fact, I've had one person, and I could be wrong on this, like maybe you guys work with more people in that area where people have an interest in something like speed, but I think I've had like one person in it for like general health who said like, I want to work on my speed, like being fast, whether it's like running or like speed, strength, things like that. So I think like the power aspect can tie into that. But yeah, we don't shy away from it. I think if we're trying to make someone faster, we don't just cover like time domains outside of like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes, like in the endurance spectrum. Like we try to be able to do that in different variations, whether it's running. A big useful tool that we have at our gym and we use all the time for short, intense bursts are the assault bike or air bike. That's a way where we can introduce like a new kind of like a new dimension of fitness that people don't tap into willingly usually, like unless they're training. And usually we see speed like for athletes in sport, like kind of thing. That's where it's a little bit more pronounced, or we take more time to train, I guess, that part of training. So yeah, it's just another useful piece that like we use regardless of like the level of athlete or the goal of athlete. I think everything that we've talked about so far, like, and there's a reason why these are the 10 general physical skills. Like it's not just something that we value for the athlete. It's for the person just looking for regular function, and that doesn't, regardless of age, like 15, 30, 50, 60, I think we would work in some level of speed work and make it like relevant to them, right? Like it wouldn't be the same for everyone. So
Definitely.
yeah, it's not something that I think about a whole lot, like speed work in that sense, but yep.
Cool. Digging it. Next is coordination. I'll jump on this one. Kind of when we break things down. So Mondays at our gym are always barbell day, and I'm big on complexes. You build time under tension, you build strength, you can break down the movement, because so many people I see, they're just like, oh, I just want a 1 rep. Everything. They just want a 1 rep. Like, you're not getting any stronger. You keep testing yourself, but you're not getting any stronger. You're risking injury, your form sucks. Or when someone's like, well, today I'm going to keep it a technique day. You need your technique more than ever when it goes heavy. Like that. So that I hate when people say that, like, oh, I'm going to keep it a technique day. Like, no, that your technique should always be there every day, every time you lift. But coordination, so like we can break things down. Last summer we taught juggling. So it was like a summer juggling, and that was a way to break down hand-eye coordination. A lot of people hated me in the beginning, which is okay. It's all right. You need to be hated as a coach at some point. But breaking it down into pieces and then bringing it all back together. And that's kind of how I look at coordination. I look at the barbell complexes. Let's break it up in these tiny little movements, something that's doable. You can fully understand why we're hitting these positions, and then bring it back into the larger overall movement. Is how I look at coordination. And then having that conversation with people is like, why are we doing step ups in the gym? It's so when you're out hiking or trail running and you have to climb up over shit, you're not hurting your hips, you're not falling, you're not losing your balance, you're not injuring your knees. Or when you do slip and fall, like you recover faster. Those kind of things are what I'm always thinking about in coordination. So like, what are we doing in the gym that's kind of part of this bigger piece of functional, I'm going to use that word, functional movement in your activities of daily life, is kind of how I look at coordination. Yeah. Steph, you want agility since Alex doesn't want it?
Sure. Can I get the definition?
Yes. The ability to minimize transition time from one movement pattern to another.
Sure. I think that one ties in, like, honestly, what I'm thinking of right now is turn and burn. So, like, when you're doing a sticker run,
okay,
or any kind of movement like that.
You got to elaborate. I don't know what the hell that is.
Sticker runs, I don't even know what else it's called. So, it's just when you touch the wall, touch the sticker, go to like the cone.
Oh, so like a shuttle or like the pacer test.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think of.
At first, I thought you meant like a tempo run. I was picturing stickers like further apart and then closer together. Like you. Okay. Yeah. I gotcha.
So I think of that, just being able to make that quick turnaround.
Definitely.
And do it safely, because I mean, a turn and burn when you're running, if you're thinking about that, you could easily mess up quite a few things,
Yeah.
From the knee down
Yep.
in doing that, and just being coordinated enough. See how they all tie
Oh,
together.
yeah. They all tie together.
And, just being able to do the movement properly and, move into the next movement, or, just moving within one movement.
Yep.
And having that agility and being able to coordinate everything.
I like it. Alex, you've got balance. The ability to control the placement of the body's center of gravity in relation to its support base.
Balance, coordination, and agility. Definitely not all the same things, but I think all work like in conjunction. I think obviously the whole list, like the 10 general physical skills, like that's what we're going for to make a balanced, I don't want to say well-rounded athlete, but like it kind of runs the gamut of like what you would want for someone physically. So yeah, as far as when I think of balance, I think of like, I guess not so much, I think in terms of like motor control, like and spatial awareness, like knowing where you are in space and being able to control yourself through any like given range of motion. I spend time like, so I work with a lot of people on a personal training basis, and that's like the class environment is a good place to do that too, but I think it's easier to do on a one-on-one basis, where we can look at an athlete and kind of dissect like different movement patterns, like unilateral single leg work versus bilateral double leg work, or overhead, whatever. Like we can start to see like something like imbalances that are more pronounced. It's kind of cool to look at those things and then go from there to try to like develop some kind of plan that can turn those imbalances to a strength and something that someone feels good about. I mean, that's kind of vague. Like it depends on like what's going on and how we might write something like that up. But yeah, it's something that like we definitely take into consideration. That's something that I think that varies widely for each person. Like some people talk about muscular imbalances, like, and sometimes you can actually physically see that, right? Like how many people have you looked at their back and you're just like, something looks weird. Like your left lat is like 4 inches higher than your other side. And it's cool to kind of geek out and look at that kind of stuff. But just the first thing that comes to my mind is like spatial awareness, movement, and we can teach that with our athletes by adding like skills and drills, and it doesn't need to be something, and probably shouldn't be done like under like heavy loading or anything like that. So that's my take on balance when I think about it.
I like it. I'm going to take accuracy real quick, the ability to control movement in a given direction or at a given intensity. Typically, I think in CrossFit, it gets used just like this. So we're thinking about movement, putting ourselves in the proper position for that movement, be it the barbell, making sure we hit all of our positions, be it the wall ball, we're hitting the target. For me, Alex just pretended to shoot a bow. For me as a hunter, it becomes super important when it comes to obviously safety with anything, firearm or a bow. But so can I maximize my fitness components when it comes to shooting a firearm when I'm breathing heavy? I just got done hiking, however far up a hill, and then being able to execute an ethical shot for maximum lethality. So that's kind of always in the back of my mind, which is why like at home, even at the gym some nights, doing air bike intervals. I love the air bike for that. It's just something that gets me very uncomfortable, breathing heavy, and then go take a shot. And then taking a shot from shooting my bow from different positions. So am I seated? Is the target quartering away? Am I kneeling? Out of breath? All of these things. Am I fresh? Make sure that my accuracy with my anchor points are always on point. So for me, accuracy is it's a big component of fitness, because not only is it your physical body in that movement, but also if you're exerting force or manipulating an external object, accuracy is key, from fresh, tired, and anywhere in between. So cool, awesome. thank you both for going through these with me. It was a fun open talk number 2. To conclude, because we ran late, I apologize. Steph, how do you want to wrap it up from your point? What do you want to leave people with from everything we talked about today?
I think just, you got to find what works for you, whether you're a runner or just doing CrossFit to get in shape, or like you said, it's our drug of choice. Find what works for you, enjoy it, compete against yourself, and just have fun. And everybody doing the open, good luck, and really have fun with it this year.
Boom. Any guess as to what the second one will be? You don't have to get crazy specific.
I'm not sure. You guys know, Bill knows wall balls are my favorite. So I'm really hoping for some wall balls. I'd be okay with thrusters too. I like we just did, I don't know if it was from 14 or 13, but we did where it's 10 rounds, thrusters and double unders. And that one just crushed me, but it was so good. So I'd like that combo again too.
Gross.
But yeah, that one, yep.
All right, Alex, concluding.
I like that we talked about the 10 general physical skills, components of fitness. I think every time that I talked about a skill, it was usually trying to find a way to relate that skill to not just one type of athlete, I think that each of those skills can be applied to any age range, skill level, whatever it might be. And I like the order that we took it from cardiovascular, endurance, stamina, and then into the strength power realm. I think that there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I think building a foundation first for any kind of athlete is what you need to do, and then you can build on to finer points like we finished with balance, coordination, and things that you don't always think about or talk about. But I think that list is built for everyone, and like we have fun with it. I know I have fun with it, like trying to do that as a coach for each type of athlete. It's a cool challenge that I have every day, and you learn a lot from kind of each one of those components and the people that you work with.
Nice. Cool. I love it. Well, thank you both for coming on. I'm looking forward to the next 3 weeks, and then the bullet point open after that. It'll be a lot of fun. Like I said in the beginning, I love getting in the room with a bunch of great coaches and talking and learning and getting better at what we do. So thank you both for coming on, and yeah, we'll see everybody probably next week.